Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Alan Franks. Alan is an author, speaker, and a fee-based certified financial planner who provides holistic financial planning services nationwide. Unlike many financial planners who prioritize selling products, Alan takes a client-centered approach, helping individuals and families define their lifestyle goals and then reverse engineering a tailored financial plan to achieve them. His focus on cost-effective, tax-advantaged strategies empowers clients to realize their dreams as quickly and efficiently as possible. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this today.
Me too, because, we have all kinds of interesting guests and people from all walks of life and different professions, different sectors. But whenever someone comes on and talks about money and finance, I love it because I feel like there's such a lack in education. We have mandatory sort of public school education, private school options, but it's very rare that there's a class on like all of the things you need to know to adult properly. And a lot of people don't really figure it out until it's almost too late in the game or just later than optimal. So I love that you're going to talk about finance. How did you become a certified financial planner? What led you down this path and how did you get here?
Tell you what, you couldn't have picked a better segue. And I had the ability, the gift, I would say, that not many people do, of getting a financial education when I was really young. The truth is that finances are taught in the home. Even if there was a high school class on it or a college class on it, right? It would be so broad and we wouldn't be able to apply it to our lives at that moment in time when we're 15, that I'm not really sold that would really solve any problems. The truth is that finances must be taught in the home, and we as parents must take it upon ourselves to bring our kids along with us on our financial journey so that they can learn from what we do wrong just as much as from what we do right. So when we say, hey, how did I become a certified financial planner? It starts when I was a kid. My dad used to bring me to his meetings. I would meet when he would go to his life insurance agent. I would meet with them. When he would go to the stockbroker, he'd bring me along in the meetings. And once again, it wasn't as much of what I was retaining when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, but it was me remembering that I went to these offices. I had to look people in the eye, I had to shake their hand, and then I would go and I say, Dad, what was that meeting about? He would recap it for me. And hey, Alan, I have this life insurance for this reason, or we have these investments for this reason. And I remember when I was in my young teens and my dad signed up for a Robert Kiyosaki course. And I remember him actually not only just going through the course, but going to the law office with him as he signed to buy 6 rental homes with no cash down. And he took me through the process of what it took to get there. And I remember going into this law office and looking at these reams of paper. I swear we killed a forest that day at the signing. But being able to see that and being exposed at a young age really sparked my interest of not only how do we do financial planning, but how do we get other people's money working for us? So when I went to college, I studied economics at Mercer University in Macon, Georgia, and I graduated in 2010. And if anybody else graduated, I'm 37 years old. If anybody else graduated around that time, they would know that, hey, it was probably a really fascinating time to study economics, but a super challenging time to be looking for a job. So when I got out, I would love to tell you I became a financial planner because I really wanted to help people. And I loved showing people how money can help them live their dreams. And all of that is true. All of that is very true. But the truest aspect of it is that I was desperate. I had worked really hard to get a good GPA, I had 2 degrees, and I was looking for jobs, and there just weren't any jobs available out there. So what I ended up doing is frankly, out of desperation, I took a commission-only job with a company called Northwestern Mutual, and I learned a lot in my 5 years at Northwestern Mutual, but I certainly learned what I did not want to be when I grew up. And what I didn't want to be was a commission-only salesperson. I wanted to be a true comprehensive financial planner. So I married my wife, Allison. We moved from Macon to Atlanta. I switched firms. And that's when I started doing true comprehensive financial planning. And just to kind of give you an idea, our industry is still a little bifurcated in that investment people focus on investments, insurance people focus in on insurance, bankers focus in on banking. Right? Well, the truth is, a good financial plan, it needs all of those parts. It needs its investments to complement its insurance. It needs its banking to get good high yield savings accounts in there. We kind of need all this. And then in the midst of all this are all these decisions such as employee benefits, real estate, car and home insurance, all these things that really come into our financial plan. And so what we strive to do is bring all of that together so that it's working like a symphony would, right? We have all these silos, we have all these solo acts that are working separately, not communicating with each other. And our job is to be the maestro of the orchestra here and bring all these solo acts together so that they start complementing each other and start creating some synergies.
Well, and so in my field, I'm a lawyer, I'm a real estate broker, I do these different things. One area that I do a lot of work in is estate planning, meaning wills, trusts, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, all, everything, it's like adulting 101, right? Like some of the things you have to do, but people avoid it. And there's a lot of head in the sand about estate planning. And a lot of it comes from, I think, fear of, if I start talking or thinking about death, maybe I'll manifest it and I'll die quicker, or even just kind of the ickiness, of thinking about being in the hospital and what would happen if you are. And it's not fun. It's not something anyone wants to do. It's easy to put it off. And then there's always a thought, oh, it's going to be so expensive. I'll do that another year where I'm feeling flush with cash. And yeah, maybe I'll hire a lawyer to do this for me. But in your case, in the world of finance, what is that barrier, that wall? Like, what is it that's keeping people from paying attention to their finances the right way, from getting the help or just even educating themselves about it and helping themselves? But why is it that people have their heads in the sand in finance?
Yeah, Flavia, I really think it comes down to human nature. We are not designed for delayed or deferred gratification. We're not. So when you look at what we are trying to accomplish, which is get somebody financially independent so that at age 65, let's say, they can work because they choose to, but not because they have to. Right. Well, that is so against everything that we are biologically built to do. If you think about it, the life expectancy of humans, I don't think we even reached age 65 until the early 1900s. That means that maybe for the last 100 years of our 300, 500, I don't know how long Homo sapiens have been around, right? Only for the last 100 years have we actually lived age 65. And now we're asking people to put money away for age 65 to age 90. It's just not in our nature to do that. It's in our nature to eat what we kill and eat it right away because we may not eat a meal for another couple of weeks, right? And so I believe that that's what's getting in the way is frankly just we are not really great at thinking about 10, 20, 30 days in the future, let alone 10, 20, 30 years into the future, right? And so the reason that I think financial advisors will always have a job and that AI will never overtake us is because we make people think about these things. We help them see the long-term implications of their short-term decisions and what good decisions can compound to over time.
So I know in my field, one of the things that sort of prompts people and gets them over that hump is sometimes there's a situation in the family, maybe a relative passes away and there's a big, huge mess and, family infighting. And they're like, I never want that to happen to me. Let me figure this out. Or there's a health scare, maybe upcoming surgery, or maybe there's a child born and they're like, oh my goodness, I have all this responsibility now. I need to buckle down and, amp up my adulting. But in the world of finance, what is it that finally gets people who are not long-term thinkers and are really just not wanting to plan years 65 through 95 and, they're sort of head in the sand? What gets them over that hump where they show up at your door?
Yeah, there's two main motivators, right? We've got gain and we have pain. And when we were young, we have the ability, we have time on our side, and we have the ability for huge gains. Okay. We can get this money working for us. If we put $10,000 away by the rule of 72, as long as we earn 7% interest, we should be able to double that money every 10 years, meaning 10,000 becomes 20,000 in 10 years. That 20,000 becomes 40,000 in 20 years. 40,000 becomes 80,000 in 3 years. So we have this, hey, if we get started early, we have this awesome ability to gain. And yes, that is a motivator. However, it is a fleeting motivator, right? What really gets us is pain. And for some reason, we found that something happens around age 42, age 43. Maybe it's people are more established. Maybe their kids are at a daycare. I don't know quite what it is, but something happens between age 40 to 45 where people realize that they might be closer to the end than they are to the beginning. And then we have something called fear that sets in, and fear is the ultimate motivator. And so what we are trying to accomplish is we are trying to get people into the door before they have children, or when their children are really young, because that's actually when we have dual income, no kids, my gosh, we can do a really good plan. We get really far ahead. And our firm has actually been focused in on getting those dual income, no kids households when they're super young to set them up on the right fundamentals. Whereas most financial advisors are just waiting for people who are 60 and they already have millions. We're trying to get them when they're young to get the right fundamentals going. But once they have kids, they kind of enter this blur there for a good 5 to 7 years. And even if they weren't in a blur, that's really hard to fund retirement when we have so much daycare and nanny expenses going on. And then all of a sudden, I think age 45 or so comes along and they realize, oh my goodness, I'm behind. I do not like this feeling. And that feeling of missing out, that feeling of irresponsibility, that feeling of fear is a very, very strong motivator. So even though we are trying to get people before they have kids, right, set up the right fundamentals, often that next phase is at age 45 or so. And then obviously we're dealing with a lot of people that are 5-10 years away from retirement that know that they're about to enter the deep end of financial planning, and they know that they need a lifeguard there to help them.
Makes perfect sense. And, at every stage in life, not only is this important, but your needs change. And so even if someone came in as a double income, no kid, right? I call them dinks. I used to be a dink. Yeah. So, no,
yeah,
it's all good. I miss being
remember what it was like to feel rich. That, golly, that was fantastic. Now I've got, a new house at a high mortgage rate and a nanny.
Well, yeah, let's not get into gymnastics classes and taekwondo lessons.
That's right. That's right.
Expensive. But so it changes, right? You're a dink in one decade and then next. But even if you were really great and you did a lot of planning early on in your early 20s, let's say, and then now you're 30 and 40 and 50, it's not something you can set and forget. Like, you have to keep revisiting because your goals change and your situation changes, your finances change. And so do people stay with you generally for like the long term? Like, are you seeing people go through life changes? Like, you met them as a dink and now they have 3 kids and you just kind of watch them mature.
Absolutely. That's the goal. We put way too much work into our clients early on to just say, okay, great job. Best of luck going forward. Now, we tell all of our clients, hey, when we're working with the client, we not only want to set up the foundation of your financial future, but we also want to build the foundation of our relationship. Because the truth is that oftentimes, besides their spouse, we probably know more about them than they may even know about themselves sometimes. And so when we are looking at that, in general, we are one of the very first phone calls somebody makes when the proverbial shit hits the fan. And I'm just going back to one phone call I received that was in a parking garage in my office. It was first thing Monday morning. And one of my clients was really just, she was crying profusely. I couldn't even understand her. And unfortunately, her sister was in a plane that had crashed that weekend, and they had not found them yet. And so we talked her down. We calmed her down, let her know that we were there for her. By the way, her sister was not a client, right? And then we immediately got to work, and I called her boyfriend at the time, now husband, and I said, "Hey, listen, I know your sister doesn't want to think about this, but I hate to say this, we need to get an attorney immediately, right?" And so we interviewed attorneys for them. It was clear that there was mishandling, that plane should have never taken off. And it took 2 or 3 years, but a rather large settlement came from that. And it's not that that settlement brought back her sister. The reason I'm telling you the story is that when we take on a client, we take on a partner in life. And I was so honored to be one of the first phone calls that she made. But that's why we do what we do.
Wow. What a story. And I mean, when people say, "Oh, you work in finance, your job must be very boring." You can probably say, "Absolutely not. Nope. My job has a lot of, twists and turns, and because it's people and it's lives, and lives are not boring. People are not boring." So, I get that sometimes where people are like, "Oh, you're just at a keyboard all day." It's like, nope, really not.
Got it. We operate at that intersection where life and money intersect. Right. That's where we operate. Every single plan that we do, the goal is not to acquire the most wealth possible. The goal is, okay, we need to find out exactly where you are right now and paint a picture of exactly where you want to be and when you want to be there by. Because when I have those 2 points, I can reverse engineer a financial plan to help you get from where you are to where you want to be in the most cost efficient and tax advantage way possible. And that's the quickest path between those 2 points. So everything that we do from a financial planning and savings has a life goal attached to it. And we found that helps clients act quicker. It helps them stick to the plan. It motivates them to stick to the plan. Because once again, we're fighting against our human nature.
Anyone that's listening who has a similar job to yours in that they are a services provider, could be someone who is a coach, is a consultant, anything where, like your client can call you and be crying in the parking garage, and you're there for them because you're a service provider. You're there for your clients, sometimes 24/7. It can be very difficult. How would you help someone else who's in that industry balance their time so that they're not working 24/7, so they're not giving so much to their clients that they forget to be there for their own family? Because I know it's important to you to be balanced and to have a life outside of what you do. So how do you accomplish that?
Yeah. So I've got a couple rules. From 5 to 7:30, I am not available because that's the time that I spend with my daughter right there. She goes to bed at 7:30. After 7:30, I'm going to return any texts, any phone calls that I didn't get to that day. I'm going to go back and check emails. I'm going to get a workout in general to take care of me personally. Typically, we still have time to watch a mindless episode of TV with my wife, right? But I would say this, I was talking to my wife about this. We invest a lot in staffing. We invest a lot more than other financial advisors of our size. And the reason I invest in staffing is not only does it allow us to enhance the client experience, but it allows me to live my life, right? It allows me to take that time from 5 to 7:30. It allows me to not have to worry about work on weekends, right? So whenever you're running a business, any business owner knows this, you run the risk of investing so much in your business that you don't have enough money to invest in your other things, right? But when I'm looking at the investment in my business, not only is it something that's helping me build enterprise value that one day I will be able to sell and hopefully just transition to another junior advisor, but it's also an investment in my family and in my time, getting that really good team around me.
And having a team is essential to the way a lot of solopreneurs have set it up so that they're a solopreneur. I mean, they're out there as like the main entrepreneur. It's them sort of at the top in charge of the company, but building that team is what has helped them leverage, and it sounds like you've sort of done that yourself. You are very generous because I always ask guests, hey, is there something that you would be willing to share or give to the audience? And you said you would do a complimentary financial plan and an hour-long strategy session with our listeners, which I thought was amazing of you to offer because I think the most valuable thing anybody has is their time. And so you are offering to spend time with people. And I thank you for that, truly. How do people connect with you to learn more about your services and to also get this strategy session on the books and in the calendar?
Absolutely. Listen, when you love what you do, it's not work, right? And talking strategy, particularly talking real estate and business ownership, man, it's just a passion of mine. So the best way to get in contact with me, if you go to my website, empowered-money.com, that's empowered-money.com. A couple things. Number one is obviously you can buy my book there. My book's called Empowered Money. It's everything I've learned in 15 years of financial planning. But you can also fill out a complimentary, it takes about 10 minutes to do a free financial plan, right? And then what I would recommend is you go ahead and book a strategy session with us, and we can look at that financial plan. We can go over different things that we could do there. I do not hold back in these strategy sessions. To be clear, I'm also trying to get a client. So I'm going to give you every single piece of wisdom that I've got to show you the value that we can add, right? But the purpose of this is not necessarily to make a client, it's simply to add value. I love talking strategy, and hopefully we can help some people.
Well, thank you so much. And again, that was empowered-money.com, empowered-money.com. And we are also going to put the information into our podcast guestgift.com vault. So podcastguestgift.com is where we have all of our guests listed in sort of the order that the podcast has appeared and whatever generous resource they have made available to listeners. So either one of those locations, you can access Alan Franks and get yourself one of these strategy sessions. And I hope you do, especially if you're someone that's been head in the sand and hasn't really put a lot of thought into, maybe you're just so focused on making money, you're not really thinking about, well, what am I going to do with the money? So, and you don't want to just let it shrink over time. You want to definitely optimize. So Alan, thank you for sharing your wisdom, being with us today, and just in general for all that you do to help so many people.
Thank you so much for having me, Flavia.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness, but money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use a coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.